And we welcome you back to, is this the second hour, the third hour? Is it like hour 2.51 or something? Well, we're back. And hopefully my guests are all on the line here. We've got a big party line going on tonight. And I want to welcome, joining me with Joe DeToma, Duncan O'Finian and Miranda Kelly. Welcome, guys.
Hey, Randy.
Good evening. Do we have Mr. O'Finian?
I hope so. I hope we didn't lose him.
Hey, now's not the time to be quiet.
Hey. Oh, okay. Am I on here?
You absolutely are on. You're booming.
Okay.
You're booming.
I had to unplug, replug. Okay, there we go. Now we're good.
You're good. You're good. Did you hear I played your Viking?
Yes, I did.
You want to explain what that is, by the way?
Well, the music is, is self-explanatory. It was the theme music for the movie The 13th Warrior, which was a fantastic movie that is as much about different cultures and different religions coming together to fight for a single purpose as it was just about Viking era, Middle Ages type stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the Viking or the Asterial prayer that we do quite often is just, it's kind of like, the Our Father to the Christian era. Our Father who art in heaven, well, we say, lo there, do I see my Father.
Right, and this goes into the culture of Odin, which you've talked about before.
Right. Hey, Joe.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Been a long time, man.
I know, yeah, it's been over a year. You all right?
Yeah, hanging in there.
Good. How you doing, Miranda?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
This was kind of a really interesting situation because I had Joe scheduled and I knew you guys were going to be coming on, and so I kind of engineered it in a way to get the three of you on the line together again, because I know there's a lot of commonality and that you guys have interacted with each other before.
Yeah, we have. Joe and I hooked up a long time ago, and he sent me a copy of the book, and I read it, and I think I heard him comment, what I said, and he's right. I mean, the lead character in the book, there's so many similarities. It's very reminiscent of what Jim Butcher writes concerning Dresden. But I got a question for Joe.
Go for it.
Yes.
Okay, when you were doing your research for this book, and I know you went into Project Paperclip very heavily,
right,
and with the occultism of Nazism and all that, did you come across anything in your research that related to the Nazis and their research concerning otherworldly creatures?
Yes. In the book, I actually make reference to it. Gee, I forgot the page. Too late to look for.
You know what? Actually, I've got it bookmarked here.
Oh, it's okay. They asked the scientist we brought over that eventually took over NASA,
Von
Braun. And he replied that they were able to come up with these technologies because they were able to communicate with aliens. And
okay, yeah.
They actually made a deal with them.
Right. I remember that. But I'm talking about things more along the lines of supernatural creatures. More like, let's just throw some terms out there: spectras, wraiths, werewolves, vampires, etc. Things along that line.
Well, there's a reference in the book and a lot of people believe this, is that Bigfoot is actually not an ancestor of us, so to speak. It is like a crossbreed, but is a manufactured being from these extraterrestrials. and the reptilians, even though they believe there's a race of reptilians, the reptilians, being older than us and being a more animal species, have a closer connection. They haven't been occulted like we have. They don't need a pineal gland. They're already connected into both worlds, and they're used by the archons because archons are not physical beings. They're spiritual beings. They can't interact with us. They can mess up our surroundings, but to physically interact with us, they would have to get other beings to do that. And one of the researches I found is that there's a percentage of people on the planet who have Rh negative blood.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Rh negative blood shouldn't exist.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
I found that out the hard way.
Yeah, I have Rh negative blood too.
Well, here's the funny part. I also have Rh negative blood. I actually have.
Wow.
I am odder than the odds because I have Rh negative and Rh positive blood, which only 15% of the people on Earth have Rh negative blood. 10% of that 15% have both. And I used to give blood continually. They would call me up like 5 times a year.
I used to get calls like that from people who were going into surgery and needed AB negative blood. Yeah.
Right. And they took me off the list when I had cancer. So because once you have cancer, you can't give blood anymore. You can't be an organ donor or just blood.
Right.
So that's another connection, is an off-planet connection, is Rh negative blood. Somehow we got Rh negative blood, and they don't know how it even is possible. So yes, these beings can, create other beings, even spiritual beings, banshees, like you said, wraith. You're attacked continually. It's whether you're strong enough to hold it off or not, and if you're aware that you're being attacked. People that aren't aware that they're being attacked and are being attacked usually wind up succumbing to their illness because they're in no way. You see about it, doctors talk about it all the time. All of a sudden the guy got sick, we couldn't help him, and boom, he was gone. People just give up rather than stand their ground and fight. That Viking mentality, like you talk about, that's from the race of us standing our ground, a race of people standing our ground against attacks. And you're one of those warriors. You were born to it without even knowing it, which is why, you were selected to go through these tests and struggles and experiments that you went through. Is because...
Well, yeah, right. And Miranda and I both were on that end because we've been partnered up for... How long?
Yeah.
You want to say how old you are there, baby?
Well, we have to go through lifetimes. I don't know how to do the math on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think we have these experiences. We keep coming back. We go out, we pass over to the other side, and we'll look back once we finish learning our lessons yet. Or there's lessons we have to teach. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a question I had for a couple of weeks now with your research, going beyond the book. And I got to say, I would suggest everybody read the book. It's an excellent book. It's a quick read. You can sit down and read it in one setting. And it's one of those books that you want the second part to it.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask. Are we going to get a second part?
Well, that's what Duncan and I were talking about. Oh, God, it was like a year ago. We have to sit down and talk. I want him to be part of that second book. We got to work him in there. Because his expertise on that second part of the book is going to be instrumental. Oh, yeah.
No, look, wait a minute, Joe, you want the book to sell. You want to sell copies. Leave me out of it. If you want to sell copies, leave me out of it. People don't like me, Joe. Believe me, people don't like me.
Books do not fly off the shelf around Duncan, and it doesn't help because he doesn't take any with him. He doesn't do book signings. He sucks at marketing. So anybody that thinks they're making a ton of money doing all this stuff, I got news for you.
I know.
Yeah, you've heard of box office poison. Duncan is publishing poison.
Rants and popcorn.
That's part of the attack. That's part of the attack on you. You've got too much to say, and it's not going to be allowed that you say it easily.
Well, I like what you said too about with people not even knowing they're under attack. One of the things that we have tried over the past couple of years to impress upon people is if you feel an individual who is moderately well-grounded and all of a sudden they feel their emotions in turmoil and they catch themselves saying things or thinking things that is above and beyond their norm, that's a pretty good sign they're under some kind of attack.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. When it's almost like something is going out of its way to stop you from getting somewhere, to a point, or to a point mentally, or to a point physically, you're under attack.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And the funny part, I was talking before about protecting yourself from attacks by, and asking for help from Michael the Archangel. And all the cultures, all the religions have their Michael the Archangel. In the olden religions, it's Thor. And,
right.
There's a Michael the Archangel in every religion. And how is that possible, except if there is a truth to it?
Yeah, you drilled that pretty damn good. Through all the different cultures, there have been the similar gods, demigods, etc., etc. In Odinistic people, it's Thor, Balder, Freya, or Frigga, and so on and so on. But they're all separate from each other, and they're all individual beings. Now, I'll say it straight up front: the angels don't like me too much. We don't get along very well.
Might be the wrong angels, though.
I've worked with them and whatnot, and I've even summoned one, but we don't get along very well.
Well, I don't think they like to be overshadowed, let's say, and you're an overshadowing presence, you're talking to you, kind of like me. You don't take any bullshit from anybody because you don't give a shit what anybody thinks.
No, and we both. Well, you still are a plumber. I ran a plumbing company for 5 years, and you know as well as I do when you're doing like we did a housing project that was 15 city blocks wide,
mm-hmm.
and when you're underneath an apartment complex and you're dragging in 24-inch pipe, and people don't understand how big 24-inch pipe is. It's huge.
Right.
And you're having to drag that stuff underground, and somebody looks at you and says, can I go to lunch break? You want to smack the crap out of them.
Right. They drop the other end. They see you, I'll see you in a half hour.
I was like, you lay that pipe down, I'm going to kill you. You're fired, man. Yeah. I don't even know if the angels are stronger than the unions. Oh, I've had my dealings with unions, man. No. Unions, no. I've been on both sides of that fence.
Right.
So, Duncan and Miranda, you wanted to come on tonight, and I assume you have something on your mind. What's been going on? What can you? I get emails from people. I get messages on chat. Where's Duncan and Miranda? What's going on? And publicly, the last time we heard from you, you had sort of made an announcement. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I'll start. You back up. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay. First of all, that statement that I put out was a very broad spectrum statement. And it was partly done to scare some people. And it's also very partly true. Now, if anyone has ever listened to us and paid attention, they will remember that we said there would come a time when the referees in the middle, i.e. the Grey Walkers, would drop the flag, and both sides can go to war full out. Well, that time's here. We've passed those mile markers that Miranda and I have been talking about for 2 to 3 years now. We've walked past them. We're past the point of no return. And yes, I have been granted a decree to operate above and beyond the norm. And we've been doing that. And in all honesty, Em and I have been fighting just pretty much to stay alive for the past couple of weeks. We're both going through DNA changes that is very discomforting, and our watchers are heavier now than they've ever been.
The watchers, yeah.
You want to tell them about the two that came to the door this morning?
I had a couple of federal agents show up at my front door this morning. So I did what anybody would do in that situation. I promptly went back to bed. I was like, it is too early. I don't know what you want, but I'm going back to bed. So I did. Which, it's just when you get to the point where you have vans driving around your block, the same van parking around the corner every day, multiple times a day, when you have them coming to your house and talking to the other occupants in it, you just kind of get to a point where it's, I don't know, not too much, but where, we take everything seriously and we pay attention to everything, but I just kind of hit a point today where I was like, okay, whatever, I'm not in the mood. I don't want to play this game today. I'm tired.
She hasn't had her coffee yet.
No. Yeah.
And nothing says good morning like a Fed at your door.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to go on with that, there are different groups that are showing a very keen interest in us right now. It's getting very bad.
Well, and we have multiple groups, too, that have an interest in us, shall we say. And so there's a range. It's not just one group or two groups. It's a few of them. And some of these groups are watching each other as well and watching each other watch us. So it gets very busy. And then when you have to contend with the attempts on our lives, which Duncan certainly has over the past couple weeks. There have been a couple. They know things are picking up. We know things are picking up. That's one of the indications to us that things are picking up when the interest level skyrockets like that around us. Normally, we only get occasional surveillance watchers when we're out certain places. So that's sort of a barometer for us. But I think what Duncan is trying to say to everybody, and people who haven't really followed us, what he's saying might sound a little strange with the Grey Walkers and the council and everything, but what we really want to convey to people tonight, the reason why we decided to come on the air when we really were going to not do that anymore, is that we've had such a big mile marker. And I really want to underscore what Duncan said about this being the point of no return. We've had a huge marker, and things are shifting, and there's a lot of chaff out there, like Randy was talking about earlier with the disinfo and stuff like that, but we just want to impress upon people that now is a very crucial time, and I'll let Duncan explain more about that.
Well, a lot of that has to do with Pope Benedict, or as we call him, the rat, resigning. A lot of people that I've been talking to and reading about have been basically talking about what a good thing this is. No, it's not. Ratzinger is just that, a rat. And without going into a lot of detail, I've actually called him that to his face, a Nazi rat. But even Nazi rats are used to hold the line at certain times. Ratzinger was never supposed to resign. He was supposed to die in office. So with his resigning, he has stepped up the time frame of key events. And that is not in any way a good thing.
Does this have anything to do with the prophecies of St. Malachi by any chance?
It does.
Okay, I kind of figured that.
Yeah.
Folks, you can look that up online. I'm actually going to do an interview this weekend on that.
One of the things that a lot of people don't know about is everybody knows who Malachi Martin was. Malachi Martin. Malachi and I had a meeting arranged through his publicist just before 9/11, actually, just before he died. And I was slated to leave at that time. I got a phone call early in the morning from his publicist she told me that he had died, or she said he was murdered. And he and I were actually going to work on a couple of projects, and this was actually one of those projects. According to prophecy, now you can talk about Catholic prophecy, religious prophecy. I'm not a religious individual at all. I think religions are out there to help control the masses and take their money. And well, Randy knows my opinions on religion.
Yeah,
and
I share.
I was one step away from being a Catholic deacon. So I am, religious trained. I've had the training, the study, and so on. But I walked away from that over 20 years ago. But so many of these old Catholic prophecies that are not routinely talked about have been picked up from much older prophecies. Now, St. Malachi, the Irish saint, I think it was early 14th century, late 13th to early 14th century.
1139. So it'd be 12th century.
The 12th century? Okay. Hey, I don't remember the number. I can better remember.
Well, I'm just really good with a web browser, that's why. Gosh, he's so smart now. I just type with one hand.
Well, the thing with St. Malachi, he was never wrong. He was never wrong. And the front runner for the ascendant to the throne of Peter right now is an African
named Peter.
That's one of the mile markers. It has nothing to do with religion. Doesn't matter, Catholic, Jewish, Muslim, it doesn't matter. It's a mile marker.
And all of the stuff about the theories surrounding his leaving, as far as, the sexual abuse allegations and all of that, we feel very, very strongly is a smokescreen and a big, big red herring. That's not, if you break that down, it really doesn't make any sense. but it feels like something they've given people, the quote-unquote conspiracy theorists, to chew on as a reason when they're hiding the real reason.
Right. You're absolutely right about that, B. And the thing with that is Malachi even told me that he even wrote about it, that when John Paul II assumed the papacy, see, Malachi Martin, he was actually a very good man, and he was papal advisor to, I think, 3 popes. And that was the first thing that he went to John Paul II, Karl Wojtyla, about, was the pedophile problem in the church.
Which was, he was at the Boston Diocese at that time, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And to quote Father Martin, John Paul II said, they won't listen to me, there's nothing I can do. So he just turned a blind eye to it. He didn't deal with it until he had to. As far as the Catholic Church goes, and this is just my opinion, there hasn't been a valid, strong pope since Pius X. Some people go all the way back to Paul V. And that's all fine and good. Again, this isn't about religion. It's about what's right, what's wrong, and mile markers. I'll get it out in a minute. The other mile marker that we crossed was the exploding meteor over Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that Em and I have talked about for a long time. As we begin to enter the cloud, the celestial cloud that we're starting to go through now, that will increase. And I think people have saw that. Not only did we have the one that exploded over Russia, we had the one in went pretty much all the way down the coast of California, didn't it, Neil?
It did.
And the one in Florida. And there was another one that escapes me, and that's just the ones that have been reported. Those will continue to increase. And we've also talked about earthquakes increasing. And all you got to do is look at the earthquake map today, and that's pretty much self-evident.
Do you want to mention the financial side of things, too?
Well, the financial side of things, I've been told over and over and over, shut up, don't ask questions. It's not, that's not our job on the financial part. But...
Well, as far as the timing goes.
The timing is lovely. And I think we're seeing that right now with this non-event that they call they're calling the sequester that's going on right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's all part of the plan to bring about the collapse of the dollar and the total and utter financial ruin of this country. And, we talked about that privately many times, that it's just being propped up by bubble gum and twine and glue.
I believe there's some unicorn tears in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, they signaled this last year when they basically backed us over what they called the financial cliff at that time. And we knew we were going to go into this quarter having, again, to deal with the sequestering of funds, and there would be these threats of reduction of services. And the fear meme, which is basically what they're playing right now, because they're warning, well, you're going to have to stand in long lines at airports because of security cuts, and they're going to threaten social services as they always do. But the bottom line is that this was all well planned. They've been doing this. I mean, the economy collapsed in 2008. For all intents and purposes, we've simply been living in this bubble for the last almost 5 years now.
Yeah. exactly right. And again, I'll state for the record, the financial part of everything is not my forte. I've asked questions about it, and I'll say it again. I get smacked on the back of the head, saying that's not your worry. Leave it alone.
Well, the broader picture, though, I think that's just what I wanted you to mention, was not details about it, but how it was also a marker, and that, the market would stall, and then there would be a false sense of hope and correction, and, the recession's over, right, and then it would bottom out. That would be the precursor to it bottoming out again. That's all.
Right. Yeah. You're right. We're seeing the stock market higher now than it's ever been. It's what I don't know what it closed at today. I didn't have a chance to look, but it's been up and down past the 14,000 mark. I look for it to go to about 14.2.5 to 14.5. And then all of a sudden, bam, half of it will be gone in the blink of an eye, and then continue to drop right on down. And these are just all mile markers of what we've been talking about for the past, for how long now. And the long and short of it is that we have to say is it's over. The American dream, the dream of, I guess the best way to say it would be the world dream, it's done. There are groups out there that are trying to convince the populace that everything's great. We have the best president in the world, ha ha. We could go on about that all night. Yes, I met Barry Sorotas when he was very young.
You too, huh?
Yeah.
I just had a conversation yesterday with somebody who gave me a lot of information about that, about Sotero when he was part of Projects, right?
He was. Now, I don't have a lot of information about him. All I know is I was led up to a group of young individuals, and I was told that these people would be the leaders of the future. The future being our time now.
Yep.
And I took an instant dislike to this person.
Isn't that funny? Everybody says that. I'll just tip the hand a little bit. I've been talking behind the scenes with William Stillings, and Andy Bashaga had also told me about, Sotero being in Project Pegasus. And the consensus with people is that Sotero's pretty much out for himself. He's not a team player.
I'm not even sure who that is. Basiago, I know.
Okay.
Not personally, but I know who he is.
Yeah, but Stillings is another one of Project Pegasus guys that just came out.
Okay.
And I won't say a lot about that right now, except that we've been in touch. And so it's interesting. You knew as well, and Andrew said this, they knew years ago who these leaders were going to be. They were predicted. So your democratic process has basically been hosed for a long time, because this goes back to George Bush 1.
Well, I've said it on record many times. We haven't had a duly democratic elected president since Abraham Lincoln, at least.
At least, yeah.
If we've ever really had one. But help me out, honey. I'm having a bad night. I'm shivering.
I know. Well, I think this is all leading up to something really important, which is, try to remove the distractions, try to remove all the bits of information, and we're just trying to think, how is this going to affect everybody on this planet from this point forward? Now that we've reached these mile markers that Duncan has foreseen, you know, there are so many other markers and signs that he's talked about with me that have come to pass. That, I mean, he's nailed it. He's nailed every single one. So that's why I so strongly pay attention to everything that he sees and every bit of information that he gets. And so we're at this crucial crossroads right now where we've passed the point of no return, and certain things are going to start happening in the world to people, and to those people who are open and intuitive and have awakened, this information can help them greatly when other people are just going to fall apart. So, Duncan, why don't you talk about, now that we've hit these markers, what can people expect to see in the future and deal with in the future?
Yeah, well, there are the things that I think people need to wrap their minds around is there are things that you can't change and you can't stop, no matter how hard you try or want to. They're meant to be, and it's just not going to happen. And there are higher powers, and I use that in plural, powers, at work here. Now, we've talked about this celestial cloud that we're going through, and that has been confirmed. You know, that's been on the news the past year and a half, that the solar system is starting to pass through this cloud type thing that they really don't know what it is. They're saying, don't worry about it. Yeah. Way to go, NASA. People out there who have any kind of abilities at all, whether you've ever noticed them or not, doesn't matter, they will begin to manifest. And it's going to scare the crap out of you. You're going to start seeing things and hearing things and sensing things that you never thought was possible. And if you've been one of those people that have scoffed and laughed at the supernatural and things from beyond, you're in for a very rude awakening, because it's going to hit you guys first. Then it's going to hit the people who don't have any abilities. Because, in all the different cultures, religions, and so on, it talks about the veil being lifted. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. This is the veil being lifted. This is our solar system going through a point in space where our dimension and the next dimension, i.e. the spirit world, come in contact. It's just like All Hallows Eve, Halloween. That is the one time during the 365-day cycle that the veil is the thinnest and things can come through. That's why that is a great satanic ritual night. And I will say something about that in a second. Imagine that all the time, compounded about 100%.
Because what's happening is all over the world right now, portals are being opened.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Shag Nasties are coming through.
Yeah.
Most of those are natural portals that have been shut down for millennia that are now being opened. And like Em just said, there are some real nasty shag nasties coming through those portals. And guns won't stop them.
Well, and this is really an opportunity for everybody who has always felt that they were different, that they didn't belong here. The world is nothing like how they thought it would be. They know they're here for a reason. They don't, sort of your classic signs of an awakened, intuitive individual. This is your chance to shine and to help people. And to put your abilities to work. Wow.
This is the time. There are two groups of people. Well, okay, actually 3 groups of people out there right now. There are us. Okay, Miranda, Randy, Dave, myself, Joe, many others who are here for a specific reason to fight a specific fight. Okay, that's why we're here. Then there's a second group that is of a much younger age. They are the group that will come to terms and to age now and over the next couple of years, that will be there to rebuild. Then you have the third group. Well, let's just say the third group are the assholes of the world who don't believe fire burns even when they stick their hand in it. And those are the ones you've got to help. Lead them through it. Now, the one thing I want to say that I mentioned a minute ago about satanic rituals, et cetera, we've been accused of a lot of things. 99% of it not true. We are not satanic in any way, shape, or form.
Who's saying that?
Oh, well, you know who he is.
I mean, yeah, I know.
We'll leave him nameless for now.
I'm clutching my pearls.
I know. But I think the only way I want to go with that statement is we're here to fight and to do a job, and that job is to shut down a certain piece of equipment that will allow a merging of 2 dimensions of which the human race would most likely never come back from. So if there are people out there that want to say, that we're out for ourselves, we're the bad guys, we're this, we're that, yeah, screw you. And that's, there's no point in going farther with that. We talked about this the other day. We're at a point now where arguing with numbnuts is a total waste of time.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
that's actually true.
I think I just want to add that, there's a lot of information out there, and it's up to people. We're not forcing this on anybody at all. It is up to every individual person to use their own talents and abilities to discern what they believe to be true, and that's fine. But one thing that we've noticed as we're getting closer to all this stuff is that they are trying to throw more and more chaff out there because they can't completely shut us up, so they want to dilute our message as much as possible or confuse people as much as possible, so that there's so much out there and so many distractions and so many crazy stories that people just don't know where to turn. So, our message, we already know, is going to get buried somewhere, but it is really important. And I do also want to say that, yeah, Duncan's right. We've had so much horrible stuff said about us, which is frustrating because we have worked so hard and so long to try to do what's right and do right by the children that were in these projects and, all of that. And so with every fiber of our beings, we are here to do good and to help people and help this planet. And like Duncan said, give them a chance to decide for themselves their own fates, rather than have others decide it for them.
To give the human race as much of a level playing field as we can give them.
I'm going to interject something here, since it came up, and it has to do with what you just mentioned. The original work that you guys were trying to do was to get a process going to redress grievances against projects, and specifically the project's use of children.
Right.
What happened in the blowback from that whole situation was distortion, obfuscation, lies, and a campaign of discrediting that ultimately is now going to blow back in the faces of these same perpetrators. And they know who they are. We've named them. We don't have to do that anymore because they are nothing and they are no one. But there are repercussions for actions. And the repercussions of ignoring the innocents is going to cost in this generation as a result of the actions of a few people who felt it was funny, it was cheeky, it was very cool to operate against people who were attempting to bring out very important information about the use of children in projects, something that is ongoing.
Yes.
The blowback from the pedophilia scandals in England, at the Vatican, wherever they occur, they're simply surface level eruptions of things that have been going on for a long time. And the projects have been going on for a long time. So I guess I say all that to say that the responsibility that you held to bring that out was fulfilled. The mission was completed, and it was successful. And those who came against you are going to reap the negative energy that they've sown in working against that message.
I feel like we've utterly failed.
No, you
honestly.
have not failed.
I feel like we have totally failed these children, and at this point, we don't even have time or opportunity to try to help them anymore because of where the world is going, and now we have to focus on helping humanity, which is great too. It's just so sad.
I know, honey, but that was always our primary goal.
So you know how I mean, if I could interject, what you guys did was like throw a pebble into a pond. You started the ripple effect.
Yeah.
So what you did wasn't a failure. You started the ripple effect that other people can now take advantage of. You know, you opened it up. You put it out there, and people now make their own decisions whether it was right or wrong. It wasn't a failure. It was a supreme move on your part. You did the right thing for the right reasons at the right time. So I don't think you should feel that way.
I agree with you, Joe. I agree. I think the message got out there, and it's going to reverberate for a long time, and other people will pick it up. And that was simply an aspect of your job at that time, but it wasn't the primary mission.
Well, and also to tack on to that, a lot of the people that, we're keeping nameless right now, they did what they did with a very specific purpose in mind. You're absolutely right about that. What we did not catch until almost too late, but we did catch it, and we caught it in enough time, was the individual that they were working with.
Mm-hmm.
And these people that were working with this individual, the old Scottish lords, when England invaded Scotland all those years ago, to get them to do what they wanted them to do, they would promise them title and property.
Well, good luck with that after what Joe and I talked about tonight.
Yeah, exactly. But in a sense, history repeats itself, because these people with the individual they were working with were promised favors, position, monetary, and so on. And as I understand it now, that's not working out too well for them.
Well, you may recall at a certain pivotal point in the history of Nazi Germany, there was the Night of the Long Knives. And that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Do I need to be more explicit, or can we just allow that to settle in the background right now?
That's great.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. The only thing I will add is we know who the individual is that they took the favors and the promises from. And that individual is someone that I would deal with myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way it can be dealt with. You know, we can talk about Romulus and Remus. You know, Randy, you made that connection some time ago, and that fits very well.
Yeah.
But I'll deal with that. And it has to be dealt with because it ties in. It's almost like an avenue next to a street with this whole thing. You know, you gotta make a left turn to go around the avenue to get back onto the street you're on. So we'll deal with that. But the long and the short of all that is these people who as we've said, that will remain nameless right now, failed in their assignment. And they will, believe me, not from me, not from him, not from any of us, they will deal with somebody. And it will not be pretty. And I guess this will be a very good time to make the statement is that this will be the last public interview we do for a very, very long time. And it's been great being on with Joe.
Same here, buddy.
We've had so many people that we meant to reconnect with and over the past couple of years, and we just haven't had a break. I mean, it's one thing right after the other. It's climb a mountaintop on Monday and, hike through the desert.
Have one fall on
Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, it's just, this is the way it's been. But we do need to reconnect.
Right now, it feels like even just moving from day to day, time is weird. Energies are weird. I know some people have picked up on it. My energies just dropped through the floor today, and they've gotten a little better the last hour, but quite honestly, coming into showtime tonight, I felt like something was just completely sucking me dry. It was like spiritual vampirism.
Yes, yeah. That's, we've talked to and dealt with a lot of people with that very same symptom. And that is rampant right now. Spiritual vampirism. I like that statement.
You had mentioned something too, Duncan, about DNA changes.
Yeah.
It
goes right along the line. There are people here that are here to do a job. Okay. Mm-hmm. We can call it the end times, the end of the age. I prefer to call it now. Just flat out. 3 words, 3 letters. Now. This is now. That if we were to be seen as we really are, to say it would not have worked. So things were done in the past to keep us from being who we really are until the time was right. And those changes have to come at least on a moderate level. They can't be that slow. They can't be that fast. If they're too fast, they'll kill us. But it has to be done at least a moderate level. There is a certain group of us out there right now that are going through these DNA changes now. And let me just say, they're wicked. They are wicked.
We're experiencing them sometimes as, I don't know what to call it, like, it's like you have a fever, but it's coming from the inside, like bone deep shivering that comes from the inside out, and you're ice cold inside and hot on the outside. This weird combination of hot and cold, and just shaking for minutes to hours, and there's no stopping it. It's really unpleasant, but it's important.
And while that's going on, you suddenly become aware you're hearing your neighbor 4 houses down. All your senses become so heightened.
That's probably one of the things that I'm noticing right now. Heightened sensitivity to sound and light.
And a problem, and another, just one of the many problems with that is that I've noticed for me is I'm developing a heightened sensitivity to anything toxic, and that includes food. So any food that's like an excitotoxin or something that's not just organic or purely good for you, my body goes crazy. Whereas it had more of a tolerance for it before, like sugar or wheat or, fast food or something like that. Just more sensitive to that stuff.
Well, I haven't been able to eat a full meal or any kind of decent meal in 3 weeks. I've barely eaten. I've been like fasting for 3 freaking weeks.
Actually, that is something we did intentionally a few weeks ago, was fasting, just because it felt like the right thing to do. And that might be something that people want to consider doing as they're also going through these changes. Yeah. Because I do think that, it's not just us. This is happening to other people.
No, actually, I'm having conversations with people when they're changing diets, they're juicing, they're going to light diets. I've been all over the map. I go for days where I'm not hungry at all, and then all of a sudden I'm just ravenous. And it's like really weird. That's not a normal thing for me. And I think we're symptomatic, maybe the high end of the scale of what a lot of people are going through right now, which is why we're having this conversation. I have a thread going on here in the chat. And people are basically asking the question, tell us WTF is going on. They're saying this is going to be your last public exposure. Let the other shoe drop. Tell us what's going on. So, as much as you want to put out, I've kind of left you guys question between yourselves because I've been out of the loop, and I don't want to tip the conversation into an area of things that you cannot or do not want to talk about.
Right.
Well, that was an excellent statement, Randy, because, we've said it before, there are things that we are not permitted to talk about. And there are times when we really stretch that line. And I catch a lot of hell for that sometimes. The thing, I hear you. The thing with the black line going across the sun is still very relevant. And it will be very relevant in the future. That was originally meant for us, no one else. That was a personal message to us. And we debated that for weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And we're able to go public with it. And we kept wondering, what in the hell would cause that, would create what I saw. And then lo and behold, we sent you the links to it where they're talking about the two comets that will be coming this year. Personally, I think those are the Hopi Kachinas.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those will cause a black stripe to be visible across the sun in the daylight hours. When that happens, guys, you got 6 months. You got 6 months.
Well, we have 6 months. You probably have 6 months, too.
Yeah,
Everybody else probably has 6 months, too. We can't be 100% sure, but we know that for sure we have 6 months. So
right. We have 6 months to go in, cause something to collapse on itself, and hopefully die.
Yay!
We don't want to be stuck under about 1 billion cubic tons of steel, concrete, and dirt.
But I think, I know this is something that you, Duncan, wanted to talk about, too, is the whole fear-mongering thing. And just to clarify, we're not at all trying to fear-monger. And in fact,
no.
I think that this, for the people who are, again, awakened individuals who are in tune and know what's really going on, I don't think people should think about this kind of stuff as the end of the world and horrible and terrible. It's, the way we look at it is we're already focusing on the rebuilding, which is a more positive thing. And I think actually this might be a very exciting time for people if people can wrap their heads around that concept, because those latent abilities, that part of you that tries to sing but nobody can understand what you're singing, that part that's just been yearning, I think that calling will be answered. And there will be opportunities for people to present and use abilities for the betterment of the entire planet. And that's a very exciting and positive thing. And
well, it's interesting you would say that, Miranda, because someone in the chat room, who was this, asked, can we help? Is this dimensional work? Well, yeah, it is dimensional work, and you can help, and that's what you're talking about now. Because people, I sense the vibe in the chat room right now, and they're frustrated, and people want to do something. But we all have a mission. You guys are talking, you're very public, but everybody does have a mission, and that's what we have to focus back on as well.
They do. The dimensional work is coming here. Mm-hmm. The dimensional, astral, out there work, it's coming here. This planet is going to be a battleground on so many levels and a chance for people to do great things. So there will be plenty of opportunities for people to shine.
See, in an ideal world, we would have been able to get the magical, practical, tactical, magical thing going, and a lot of people would have gotten trained, and a lot of people would have, but that wasn't in the cards. That didn't happen. But what is happening is there is a lot of attention and intention right now that's being focused out there for people to activate themselves. In other words, maybe even we could say the day of teaching is over and it's time for people to just begin to activate.
Yeah, well, you remember that we're the ones we've been waiting for.
Thing,
it's very appropriate.
Yeah, they're using that with the opt-in movement right now.
And I think what Randy just said, too, about the PTM seminars that we were trying to do, is one of the things that we tried to instill so deeply is that of small communities.
Mm-hmm.
Learn who your neighbor is. Start getting to know your neighbors for once.
Yeah.
And start in, small groups taking care of each other. because that's what you're going to need.
It is, but there's also a lot of danger with that if you don't pick the right group members.
That's true.
You have to be so careful about that as well,
true.
Which is where your intuition comes in. But Duncan's absolutely right. There's so much that you can do as far as being just mentally and emotionally prepared for this. It's one thing to talk about shag nasties and whatnot, but try to prepare yourself for actually dealing with them. And there will be, there already is a rise in paranormal activity, and that could mean dealing with ghosts or impressions or who knows what. And if you can handle that, then you're going to be someone that people will look to for help.
I also suspect that, help is going to come. And like you said, we do have to pick our groups carefully, and we have to watch our backs, and we have to have people to watch our backs. But also think, help's going to come from some pretty unexpected places. I don't think any of us are put in a position where we're left dangling.
No, you're right about that.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right about that. Help is going to come from places and, let's just say,
beings.
Thank you. That most people can never imagine. But going back to the fear-mongering part, I don't think we're fear-mongering. Somebody wrote me years ago. I'm talking years ago, 6-7 years ago. And they said that if I had information about the future, I was obligated to share it. Well, the way they said it really ticked me off because it was a very condescending way. But in the whole theme of the statement, that's very true. We do have an obligation to put out there what we know that we are allowed to talk about. There are fear mongers out there. Yes, you hear them on TV. You hear them mainstream, lamestream, alternative. They're everywhere, and they usually try to sell you something at the end of the show.
The household ingredient that'll kill your children in their sleep at 11.
Yeah. Rosalind Capital, buy my gold from Rosalind Capital. Well, your gold's not going to mean anything when the crap hits the fan. I'm sorry, your gold's not going. Silver, I would definitely collect. That's a different story. But one of the things that always came to my mind when people would accuse us of being fearmongers, everyone knows about Paul Revere.
Mm-hmm.
The famous riot of Paul Revere, Midnight Clear.
Except for Sarah Palin. She's a little fuzzy. But other than that, pretty much everybody.
What would have happened if people had heard Paul Revere, looked out the window and said, "Get the hell away from here, you fearmonger," and went back to sleep? It's one thing to be a fearmonger. It's another thing to just proclaim what you know.
Well, and the way I think about it is, if I didn't know this information, is this information that I would like to know and that I would find helpful in the future? And if the answer is yes to that, then that's something that we feel a responsibility to talk about publicly, to try to help people, because we know that there are people out there who will encounter things in the future and say, I'm glad I knew about that beforehand, as opposed to in the moment when everything's crazy.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with preparing for future catastrophes. There's nothing wrong with that. People should have been doing that for generations in the past. And what we've been trying to say tonight is mile markers have been reached. They've been passed. There is no turning back from anything now. And things are going to happen that are going to shock. They're going to put you in awe. They're going to scare the living crap out of you. You're going to see things that you never dreamed could ever exist. But they're coming. And it could get worse than everything that we've said. You know, it depends on how successful certain groups, certain people are in the very near future.
Oh, you know, we did want to talk about the cruise ship a little bit.
Yeah, and you're better at that than I am. Miss
Go for it.
The Petri dish. Okay. First, I want to say, you know, there's no real way to prepare for every eventuality. So the best thing to do is to be prepared to be flexible and adaptable and resourceful and to be able to think on your feet. So I just want to put that out there to people because we get asked a lot about specific details, and it sounds kind of vague, but it's really, really important to just be resourceful for things. But anyway, about the cruise ship, as most of you probably know, they use cruise ships to test things because they're a perfectly contained environment. They don't have to worry about much about people leaving. You know, it is, like Duncan said, a petri dish. And so they've tested all kinds of diseases and on different cruise ship passengers. But everybody heard about the one recently where there was the fire in the engine room and they lost power, and that was done on purpose. That was not an accident. That was planned, and they wanted to see how people handled that kind of situation, that kind of disaster, and what they would do. And that's why it took so long for them to tow the ship back in. That's why they didn't bring another ship out to rescue them. That's why the tow line broke and it took longer, and I suspect even why the bus broke down at the end with the poor people on it. So pay attention, read about that cruise ship disaster, and see what happened when they shut off, when the toilet stopped working. That was horrible for people. Like, they had to flee their cabins, they had to sleep outdoors, and people were gagging and vomiting, and that's something that could happen in a disaster. I mean, we're so accustomed to our indoor plumbing, and if that's something that you can't deal with, that may be a problem. So figure out what you would do if you didn't have a working toilet. I mean, think about, I was reading, someone said, you know, who's saved more lives, plumbers or doctors? And the answer, I have such a perfect audience for this, is plumbers. Because of sanitation. Because you don't have functioning plumbing, and that is the quickest way to devastate a population through disease. But anyway, I'm off on a tangent. But study that cruise ship. I mean, there were fights, there were, you know, people fighting each other for food, but then there were also tales of people being incredibly generous, opening up their rooms, sharing, bartering, being organized, working through it on their own and not relying on the cruise ship people for help. So that's something to study from start to finish, to see what it might look like when things fall apart, and to learn how you can make a situation better and come together as opposed to falling apart. Perfect. It's a great example.
It's a great thought. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
so we plumbers have the same, Miranda. Your shit is my bread and butter.
For anybody that's never been on a cruise ship before, that is a completely self-contained system, dependent on every system working perfectly. And there's nowhere to go. You can't go dig a hole in the woods. It forces all kinds of artificial relationships on people. It's actually, in a larger sense, kind of like being on an airplane for a while and having systems fail.
Yeah, be on a cross-country flight and the toilets go down. Oh, man.
We got...
Hey, Joe, do you remember the expression as hot water's on the left, cold water's on the right, shit runs downhill and payday's on Friday?
Right.
There you go.
That's a plumber's creed right there.
That's on the test.
Keep it down on a 90-degree angle, 3-to-1.
But, what Miranda said is perfect. That's got to be a perfect way to test social interactions, They do it all the time to us, the
government. It's a petri dish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they had passed a law in the 1970s to get them to stop experimenting on us with chemicals. They used to drop chemicals in the New York City subway system,
Oh, they did it in San Francisco. And, they also like to use islands because the population is more contained. But for short-term experiments, you can't beat a cruise ship.
Yeah.
No, you can't. And to be that close to shore, and the Coast Guard saying, we're sorry, there's nothing we can... Oh, shit.
Yeah. Just let that be a lesson. Make that work for you and figure out what you would do in that situation. Real-life examples are the best, I feel, as opposed to... See, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is theoretical. It hasn't happened yet. So the more real-world experience you can get, the better. The more you think it through, every detail and every step, the better off you're going to be.
And the one thing that I do want to add that I would strongly suggest to everyone, start learning to get away from firearms now. Start learning to use different kinds of weapons other than guns. Well, I was told this several years ago about ammunition. It said the reason that the government hadn't clamped down on firearms before now, and we're talking several years ago, of course, now we know that they are clamping down. And it's not going to be the federal government. It's going to be cities, towns, states, etc. It's going to come on the micro level, not the macro level. But the government controls the ammunition pipeline, and they control the way ammunition is made. Most people don't realize that. And that what I was told is that when the time was right, ammunition will become worthless. And all it takes in any automatic weapon, whether it be sniper rifle, assault rifle, handgun, it doesn't matter, is one round to misfire and lodge in the barrel.
Yeah.
That weapon's worthless.
Yep.
Well, and there are also...
we know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There are also scenarios that Duncan has foreseen that show mechanical things, including weapons, not working at all for a time.
Yeah.
So that's why we keep saying be prepared for anything. We can't give specifics because things are going to be changing, and they'll be different depending on where you are and what you're dealing with. So don't become too reliant on any one thing.
Well, yeah, and that fits right in with the rat resigning. He was not supposed to resign. There again, as we've said, small little things that can happen in a nanosecond that can change everything.
Yeah.
The rat was not supposed to resign.
They're trying to artificially speed up the timetable.
Exactly. They're trying to throw out through a ringer, stop other plans that are in action now to level the playing field. As briefly as I can say it, the human race has got to stand up and fight for itself collectively. Understand, when we say the human race, we mean everybody, not just the ones who are standing up day in and day out and have done so for years, fighting tooth and nail, but also the ones who have done nothing.
And that doesn't necessarily mean with violence. That can be through non-compliance.
Everybody is going to have to come together as a race. I don't care if you're black, white, brown, green, purple, striped, polka dot, or checkered. It doesn't matter. The human race has got to come together as one and stand up and fight. That opportunity is going to be there. Now, it's up to the human race what they do with it. All we can do, and other groups like us can do, is level the playing field, because there have been things that have been done over years and years and generations to stack the deck against the human race. Our job is to knock that stack down and level the playing field.
I'll just add this. The human race needs to stand up. That actually is the battle stance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stand up, straighten your spine, get your head straight, and look your enemy in the eye. The war stance is the most powerful thing you can do.
The war stance and the war shout.
Yeah. Great. I remember that, yeah. Boy, did we practice that or what?
And remember, several years ago, I was dragged in to a meeting with a very nice group of people who were broke into threes. Some were indifferent, some were on the side of the human race, and some wanted to see the human race fall. And that was my argument for hours, standing there arguing and fighting, is that you bastards have done nothing but subvert, covert, and shit on the human race to where they can't make an honest decision because they don't have the information. You've done nothing but keep them down. The human race needs a chance to stand up and learn without you people sitting on top of them.
And our job is to do everything to give them a chance to fight. And their job is to actually fight.
Yep. And we will do our job. Believe us, we will do our job. Just because I wrote, that I said I'm done, I quit, I meant that. I am done, I do quit. Trying to do things the right way. Or as most people would say, is the right way. We're doing things my way now on our side. And when I wrote that I aim to misbehave, guys, I've really been misbehaving a lot the past few weeks. And it's going to get worse. I plan on, my goal is to rain havoc and chaos down on certain groups of people like they never dreamed was possible. That's our way.
We got a couple minutes here, and I'm going to wrap it up just because I have to get up in the morning, too. And I see the audience is like, there's eventually everybody's kind of fading. And this has been really important for us to have this conversation tonight. It was kind of planned and kind of unexpected and spontaneous. To wrap it up tonight, this probably is, for now, as you say, your last public statement. Go out saying what you want to be heard saying on this show tonight, both of you, Duncan and Miranda.
You can go first, son.
Oh, no, you go ahead. Yeah.
It's easy. Get off your knees, stand up, and get ready to fight. Because it's coming. Fight for yourself, fight for your family, fight for the future of your children and your children's children. That's it. I don't know anything more that I can say.
Miranda.
Well, I'll start with what he said. And I don't really have anything else to add except that we all have it in us. We all, even if we don't consciously realize it, came into this lifetime knowing that this was coming. And so you have a choice. You may not be able to choose what's coming, but you can choose how to deal with it and make the right choice, I guess.
Well, I think the human race deserves the right to make its collective choice on truth.
That's ultimately it. Yep. That's all any of us can do.
You can't exercise free will on bogus information.
Yeah.
I guess we're done, honey.
I think so.
Well, we also know that along with the mission is a promise on the other side. There is no goodbye. There is no real, what we call death. But for you guys, eventually it will be about going home as well. And to that end, we send you our energy, our blessings, and our hopes for the conclusion of a mission that takes everybody to the place where they're supposed to be when the smoke clears. And I think we'll just leave it at that for tonight. You guys stay on the line for a minute. We'll close the show out. Next week, gosh, I've got so much energy right now. Doesn't I sound exciting? Anyway, next week, James Swagger's going to be here. We're going to talk about Göbekli Tepe and Newgrange, and then author William Ramsey will be here to talk about some very strange murders that occurred and what happened to the killers after they were paroled. We'll do that next week, the first show of March 6th. I'm Randy Moggins. This is Off Planet Radio. The truth is out there. It's inside you. And be a real good time now to start tapping into it. We'll see y'all very soon.
This is Off Planet Radio.